invite all who would care to join us in recitation of the Lord's Prayer, followed by a moment of silence.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
It's now 7 o'clock. Shelby City Council meeting is called to order. Please join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated, please. Roll call, please, Mr. Crum.
Mr. Robb.
Here.
Mr. Roberts. Here. Mr. Cutler. Here. Mr. Martin.
Present.
Mr. Walker. Here.
I will now entertain a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal from March the 3rd, 2025.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Martin to dispense with the reading of the journal from March the 3rd, 2025. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Robb.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts. Yay. Mr. Cutler. Yay. Mr. Martin.
Yay.
Mr. Walker. Yay.
That motion passes. I'll come to the time for public comment. If anyone has comment they would like to make before council, you come to the podium, state your name and address, or perhaps reserve time for later on in the agenda to speak. That would be the time to come forward and make that declaration of name and address.
I'd just like to speak when we have discussion of budget,
On the
proposed budget.
the proposed budget appropriations?
Appropriations, yes.
Appropriation.
Hello, my name is Chad Young. I actually my personal residence is in Belleville, but I'm with SW Young Properties, and we own and manage the properties at 93 West Main Street and 14 Church Street here in Shelby. And we bought the property in August of 2021. Since then, we've invested around $245,000 into the property, and we continue to do so. I'm here today to inquire about getting the city-owned alley paved that's adjacent to 3 buildings that we own there. We've contacted the city coordinator, Mr. Geis, about the matter. He's been a good resource for us. He informed us that the street department makes the recommendations on which alleys need paved based on their assessment and how rough the alleys are when the street department is out doing their snow plowing. The issue that we have with it is that since we've owned the property, the city's never came and plowed the alley, which I informed Mr. Geis that during the phone call I had with him in January. And he recommended that I reach out to the street department superintendent, Mr. Shepard. And between this year and previous years, I've called a dozen times to the street department and left the same number of voicemails. And I've never received a return phone call. On 2 occasions, I purchased stone on our own to fill in potholes within the alley after failed attempts at the street department to contact them to do so. My question is if the alleys that are in need of paving are assessed while snow plowing, and the alley adjacent to our building doesn't get plowed by the street department, and we're not receiving any return phone calls, we're looking for council's recommendation on how to move forward with the situation in order to get our alley repaved.
Ms. Martin?
Can I get those property addresses again, sir?
Yes, sir. It's 93 West Main Street and 14 Church Street. I do have some pictures here that I took if that's of any interest to anybody as well. I just took these this afternoon. One thing you can't see in the pictures is where the tire tracks are as well. I don't want to call it rutted out, but just where the pavement's settled. So if you're looking at a profile view of it, you have the tire tracks and the center's raised up, and then goes down. So I think in the event that even if it were to get plowed, that it isn't really gonna do any good due to the fact the surface is so unlevel that it isn't gonna, it wouldn't be a whole lot of benefit at that point, just due to the condition or the shape that it's in.
Do these alleys connect?
Yes, sir, it
So
does.
they come from Church Street all the way around to Main Street?
That's correct. It runs north and south off of Main Street, and then east and west off of Church Street.
So they're paying attention to that. Yeah, well, I didn't even, I thought in my own hallway, I had no idea that it was a city of the alley.
Mr. Andrew?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll see how we address this issue. I'm John, as the Director of Utilities and Streets, and I'll see how we address this issue. for you.
Okay. Is there a point in time or as far as a follow-up on that? I guess it's just so we're tracking it on our end as far as a time frame on that?
I will need to review, discuss it with the service department superintendent. I'll give my contact information.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Mr. Robbins?
I think it's, once it's been brought to our attention, we'll stay on it and make sure, we'll do whatever we can to remedy the situation.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Keep the picture.
Yes, sir, you're welcome to keep it.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Martin?
I know we have had an issue with the alleyways off of, behind the properties on Grand Boulevard. And it has to do with the nomenclature on how we treat alleys in streets as far as paving, plowing, et cetera. And one thing we had talked about is there a way for us to come up with a middle ground definition? Because not all alleys are equal. You know, when you think of an alley, you think of something that's very seldom used and it's just this alley. But there are certainly some alleys that are almost like pseudo streets in our city, but they're not technically streets. And so is there a way for us to categorize that? The conversation never really progressed from there, but I still think that there's still some relevance to not treating all alleyways equally, because there are certainly some alleyways that are, for all intents and purposes, streets and need to be plowed and probably paved as such, as opposed to treated as like a typical alleyway. But the way that we differentiate that is not as clean as I think it could be.
Mr. Robbins?
Several years ago, I asked that one alley in my ward, because I got complaints about it, be looked at, and almost every alley in my ward got paved that year. And I think it's one of those situations where we're gonna pave these streets, and then if there's money left over, we'll get these alleys. So, and I appreciate the fact that I have an alley running behind my house, and I did not want that one done because I didn't want for it to look like I got preferential treatment and got an alley paved behind my house. There was just one alley that I got complaints about, it got paved, and they were all bad. They all but one, I think, got paved up there. So, so I know that they can be done, and by golly, once they're paved, they get taken care of. I mean, they get plowed, they get treated like a street. So, I just think it's something, I know we take care of them, so, it's something that we've done in the past, and I don't think we should have a problem doing, if the finances are there, we take care of them. I know it's all about finances, so if the finances are there, we can take care of them.
I kind of, Councilman Martin's idea, if we can, like we've done with the streets, we've had outside entity come in and grade the streets, so it's not all just, what do you think? So it gives us pretty objective standard, and it may be a way of doing things. We know that logistically, oftentimes it's the thing of logistics, all the equipment's there, what can we knock out while we're in that area? And accessibility, how much accessibility is needed and actually used on those alleyways. So if we could come up with, it'd be kind of nice to have that objective standard for alleyways as well. So we'll kind of work, and I say we being the administration, we'll bat it around between one another here. Maybe it comes out of Streets and Committee, Utilities and Streets Committee meeting perhaps, might be the best place for that.
There's a lot of there's a lot of alleyways, just get a lot of use, a lot more use than
And
typical.
usage would be another factor.
Yeah, especially, garbage trucks and heavy, those garbage trucks, they tear up something that's not paved really quickly. And there's quite a few alleys where they're the primary source of garbage trucks going through there. So I think usage has to be a factor in that. Again, I don't think anybody's arguing for us to pave every single alleyway in town, but there's definitively some alleyways that, like I said, they're, for all intents and purposes, they're not streets because of the legalities of what that means. However, they are.
A lot of the alleys, I know, at least in my ward, that's where their off-street parking's at. Their garages are behind their house, so they gotta go to their alleys and to the garage, so that's, and we talked about when we pave those alleys, we're gonna keep an eye on them, so that if the garbage trucks are because you don't put, you don't treat an alley like you do a street. They're not paved as thick. If the garbage truck started, destroying the alleys, we're gonna talk to the garbage company and say, we don't want you in the alleys anymore, and something else will have to be done. So, that stuff has been addressed, so.
And I think we've done more alleys.
Oh,
in
absolutely.
the last 5, 6, 7 than we've ever done before, on purpose.
Sure. Fair point.
All right, good conversation.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? You'll be making public comment for you're on the agenda. Oh, yeah. Well, we'll just introduce yourself and come up with that. All right. Super. Other public comment? We'll move forward then to Finance and Personnel Committee did not meet because we met as a committee of the whole discussing appropriations, so that was not necessary. Utilities and Streets Committee did meet. Councilman Law.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Utilities and Streets Committee met on March 14th. I've got 3 items to brief. Bridge inspections, water line alignment, and light plant smokestack. But I'm just going to brief the 2 right now, and then when we get to unfinished business, we're going to talk about the smokestack, so we'll talk about that later. As far as bridge inspections, the Ohio Revised Code 723.54 says that municipalities shall inspect their bridges. We do ours annually, and some are on schedule every 2 years. The bridge inspections and maintenance within the city this year were 10 bridges within the city, 5 state-owned bridges, 2 county-owned, 2 CIC-owned bridges, and 2 school bridges. The inspection items covered in the field report, they look at the approach summary, the deck summary, the superstructure, the substructure, the culvert summary, the channel, the signs and utilities, and scour and erosion around the bridge. They also look at the operational status of the bridge, and they code it as following: A, B, C, D. A is open with no restrictions. B is open, posting recommended. C, under construction, and D means open, would be posted or closed except for temporary. There's also an inspection rating, code and description, 0 through 9, 0 meaning worst, failed condition, and 9 is the best as an as-built condition. There's also sufficiency rating overall, fitness for the duty rating of the bridge, and it's based on a 0 through 100%. The low sufficiency rating may be due to structural defects, narrow lanes, low vertical clearance, and other possible issues. Now, we all have a copy of the final inspection report that has all that in it. I'm not going to go over that tonight. You can all read that. The next item is the water line assignment. The Division of Water Distribution is desirous on obtaining a section of water line in the COIP, the Central Ohio Industrial Park. We had talked about this at our last meeting of council. This section of the water line is on Curtis Drive. It's on the east side of Building 31, which is a former Dunlop tire. It's approximately 540 feet in length. It's a 10-inch cast iron water line. The COIP currently controls and maintains the water line. The reason for the water line assignment is the recent real estate transaction split the Building 30 from the COIP. To remedy the water line ownership to support water distribution to Building 30 and 31, the COIP management is in favor of the city taking ownership of the water line in front of Building 31. I'm currently working with the law director to write legislation to authorize the mayor to accept the assignment to the section of the water line. And then, again, I'll delay the smokestack comments till later. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any comments or questions for Councilman McLaughlin in regard to his report? Hearing none, then we'll move forward then to the Safety Committee. Councilman Fox.
Boy, we did meet, we met on the 5th of March, and in Fire EMS, we had it's gonna be a hazmat refresher class on the 22nd of March at the station. Class is sponsored by the PUCO, with Cleveland State doing the instruction. Shelby Fire will be a part of a job fair on the 14th of March at Pioneer, which is over at Pioneer CTC. And in police news, the 3 2023 cruisers were just put into service. So, we all had the issues with getting them, and then once we got them, it was late, and then we had to outfit them with the lights and all the police stuff. So those 3 are just put into service finally. So we got 3 brand new 23 cruisers, 2023 cruisers. Health Department, the Department of Agriculture is going to do a survey for the food program. In the nursing side of the Health Department, we have 11 cases of COVID, which is down. Typically, those are right now, almost always right now are in the nursing homes. So we don't have very many outside of those. And then Healthy Shelby Coalition meeting is coming up, and I was surprised to among others, 18 entities into this thing. And I asked the question, how many people are in the Healthy Shelby Coalition? And it's fire, schools, library, YMCA, police, Casey. There's 18 different entities in this Healthy Shelby Coalition, and so it's a pretty big thing. So we got a lot of people looking out for our Shelby's health. So, and that is everything I have.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Roberts in regard to his report? Hearing none, move forward to Committee of the Whole report, again from Councilmember McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mayor. The Committee of the Whole met twice in the past month. 2 Saturdays, one on 22 February for about 4 hours, and again on 8th of March for another 4 hours to finish discussion of the 2025 appropriations budget. Some of the items we covered last week were the police department, the fire department, economic development, and the general fund. Overall, in the 8 hours of discussion of those 2 meetings, we discussed the appropriations for approximately $42 million for the city. And we have legislation tonight, Ordinance 8/2025, concerning our appropriations. That's all.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions for Mr. McLaughlin in regard to his report? All right, I'll move forward then to reports of city officials. A report of the mayor, then I'll have a proclamation. Since our last meeting, I've been occupied with typical mayoral duties and delights. On March the 4th, I participated in the monthly Richland County Development Group Leadership Board meeting held in Mansfield. On March 5th, I was pleased to take part in the annual Richland New Hope Bowling event held in Lexington. That's always a fun event down there. On March the 6th, I attended by Zoom monthly Board of Trustees meeting, of which I'm a member of the Community Action Commission of Erie, Huron, and Richland counties. March 11th, I met with other members of the Richland County Tax Incentive Review Council, along with Mr. Crum that day in Mansfield. March the 12th, Mr. Geis and I participated in a Mansfield meeting as members of the Richland County Regional Planning Commission Executive Committee over there. And then I also do want to say we will be putting in utility bills a flyer about our cleanup days, community cleanup this month, May. It'll be in May. It'll actually be the 16th and 17th. It's a Friday and a Saturday, and it'll have all the details on it of what we will accept. Probably the biggest change this year, there'll be no curbside pickup service provided. Everything will be dropped off. We found kind of getting abused, so we're switching gears a little bit this year from the health department. So all the other details will be plainly stated on this flyer that will be coming out with utility bills. And I think that's all I have for my portion. Are there any comments or questions for me? If not, let's move forward to Mr. Crum, Director of Finance.
Did you have a proclamation?
Oh, yes, I did a proclamation. Thank you, Mr. Crum. I have a proclamation for Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. Whereas the more than 1,200 individuals served by Richland New Hope, their families, friends, neighbors, and co-workers encourage everyone to value and respect the abilities of all people. And whereas the most effective way to increase awareness is through participation in community activities and the openness to learn and acknowledge each individual's contribution. And whereas policies must be developed, attitudes shaped, and opportunities offered that allow citizens with developmental disabilities to live as independently and productively as possible in our community. And whereas we encourage all citizens to foster and support such opportunities that include full access to education, housing, employment, and recreational activities. Now therefore I, Stephen L. Shagg, Mayor of the City of Shelby, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2025 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, and offer full support to efforts that assist people with disabilities to make choices that enable them to live successful lives and realize their potential. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of Shelby, Ohio, to be affixed this 14th day of March in the year of our Lord 2025. That is the proclamation joining other municipalities and villages and the county in promoting developmental disabilities awareness and do what we can to make positive impacts. So, very happy to join that effort. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that reminder. Mr.
I had the pleasure for several years through the school system for New Hope and all the county schools that had kids with developmental disabilities to play Santa Claus. They had a big, at Christmas time every year, they had a big thing at the Brown River Roadhouse in the back. And so I went around, handed out candy canes and, I mean, it was one of the highlights of my year. I'd go over and dress up and walk around and, so you talked about the bowling,
Yeah.
being a positive, positive thing. It was absolutely positive in my life also.
Right, very good. Thank you for that. That's a good piece of information. All right. Mr. Crum. All right.
Mostly typical activities for this time of year, appropriations, year-end reports, audit work, all that jazz. We do have a new tax clerk in our tax department, so stop by and say hi to Lori. She's coming from the city of Mansfield, so she's been able to hit the ground running and actually has offered some good tips for us. Fabulous person. And that does remind me, it is now a couple days less than a month from April 15th, and so the citizens have not come out to drop off their tax returns or have them processed by our tax department. Please do so, because it's going to go by quickly. So,
All right, sir. Thank you, Mr. Crum. Any comments or questions for Mr. Crum in regard to his report? Hearing none, move forward to Mr. Gordon-Eister, Director of Law.
Thank you, Mayor. I would save any report that I would have for the executive session this evening if council is so inclined to invite me back for that meeting. Other than that, no report.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions in regard to that note or what? No. We'll move forward then to Mr. Joe Geis, project coordinator.
Thank you, Mayor. We did hold a public hearing for ordinance 2 and ordinance 3, 2025 this evening. There were no comments. And we will open up our paving bids this Thursday at 10 a.m.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Geis in regard to his report? If not, move forward then to new business. We have on the agenda Kate Curran and Randy Samsel, representing Shelby Historic Preservation Commission, their annual report.
Good evening, thank you, Mayor. So I got the report to all of you, so I'm just gonna hit on some highlights. Since 2020, the commission has been developing the local design guidelines. So those have been in the works for quite a bit. So I'm proud to say that in April, Shelby City Council and State Historic Preservation Offices approved the final draft. And in June, the commission received physical copies and we uploaded a digital version to the website. Also, part of our plan of work for 2024 was historic building owner education and outreach. In September, the commission held both an in-person and Zoom meeting highlighting the importance of historic preservation, the role of the commission, and the city ordinance 2014. Also, practical guidance on building maintenance and repair, and available preservation funding options. So we're trying to outreach, talk to people, get involved, and give them the resources they need to start maintaining buildings, how they can update, where they can get this information, and how we can help them. We found in previous years we've kind of been a negative thorn in people's sides, and so we're trying to make our commission be a positive light and a source of being able to help. So saying that, this year we look forward to, we've been developing a brochure that we can give out to building owners that also describes what we do, how we can help, and also a list of resources for them. We've given them that information in meetings, but we know it doesn't always stay. So we're hoping that we can have this brochure and be able to hand it out, and they have it in their hands. So that's what we're looking forward to this year. We also worked on local landmark designations. So this year, we focused on the Girl Scout House and Seltzer Park gates. We also looked at Clark Street and Boulevard Way lights, but we deferred those for further research. But on September 13th, we held a public hearing for nominations on the Seltzer Park gates in the Girl Scout House. And it was unanimously voted to designate both of those as local landmarks. So that's what we worked on this year. We're going to work on more of those and look further into the two that we kind of deferred this coming year. And we're also looking at supporting restoration efforts at the Oakland Mausoleum. They have a new board that's kind of assembling, some new members. So they are looking for some guidance. They are getting some help. So we look forward to kind of seeing what can happen this year. We're also working on monitoring the status and preservation of historic buildings and looking at incorporating some signage, hopefully, for the downtown area, for the district downtown, just to bring some awareness that we have this history and that it is important. So we're hoping to kind of incorporate some of that. Are there any questions?
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yeah, as she said, the Oakland Cemetery Association, we've been working with them on mausoleum. Three of us, me, Mr. Crum, Mr. Ensman, we're on that board. And so, yeah, they designated this on the National Registry within the last year, and so, and we're working closely with them.
Exciting things happening.
Thank you. This is a commission that has kind of been evolving, and again, I think the idea of the educational piece has really become important. Doing a good job getting our own local guidelines where people feel these are Shelby's, they fit. Always they're national and state standards, but they do fit the city of Shelby. Getting things in our hands, I think the brochures would be a great tool to try to give folks a better education as to what historic preservation looks like and how that can be accomplished with their buildings. So that's good. I think it's good positive things. We're still looking for another member. We have a member that resigned, trying to find a member, and it's difficult. I think the one description is in there. I read it. Someone with, let's see, we'd like to have this member to have either preservation-related professional in the fields such as architecture, architectural history, archaeology, planning, or related area, if such an individual is available in Shelby. So that's what we're trying to really see if we can find someone that kind of fits in that mold. And that's supposed to be like within a 60-day period, but that may not always be within a 60-day period. Mr. Cobb.
Do they have to be a resident of Shelby?
We have had outside folks because we have had some that do fit that description as best we can, but they did not reside exactly in Shelby.
There's, in our ordinance, there are 2 available spots for people that live outside of town. So the person that left was one of those people, so this one is not restricted to be someone that's within the city limits.
That'll help in that search, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But thank you for your work.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Is there any other new business to be brought before council? Move for an unfinished business. Actually, we have a piece of legislation that will kind of address the future use of the Main Street Fire Station. So I would believe for that piece of legislation, I think that'll be sufficient. We can get more in more detail. And the smokestack, the Councilman Walker will cover a little bit of that in his report.
Yeah, so Mr. Ensman put this together for the utilities meeting, so I'll just read what he gave to us. So the smokestack is a radial brick chimney, the height is 190 feet. The platform you see that is rounded is at the height of 150 feet. The utilities communication antenna is mounted on the platform railing. The rungs, the steps leading to the platform are unsafe, loose, and pulling from the mortar. From a safety standpoint, the platform is questionable. If the smokestack is demolished, new location is needed for our utilities antennas. We're looking at 2 options if that's the case, possibly Mickey Road Water Tower or co-locate with a cell tower. There are 2 options for our smokestack. One is to continue with the demolition. The last quotes to demo the smokestack, 2021 it was approximately $310,000, and 2023 estimate was approximately $500,000. To repurpose the structure to be a decorative landmark is our other option, where we cap the top of the smokestack, weatherproof it, tuck points and bad areas, paint and light up the structure. That's it.
Thank you, sir. So, ongoing study, and I would think most of the progressive thoughts will come through the Utilities Streets Committee that share with council. If anyone else has any ideas, you run across something in a different community, or if a community member comes with ideas, see Mr. Ensman and that concept of repurposing if at all possible. It's feasible.
This says 2021, 310,000, but even before then, I remember when we first discussed this, it was like 125,000 or something. That's how much it's gone up. I think we're beyond the feasibility financially of taking it down to where it would be more financially feasible to repurpose it. That wasn't always the case. I mean, there was, when it was $125,000 to take it down, it wasn't financially feasible to repurpose. But now I think we're in a situation where maybe the inflation will force us to, or I should say, allow us to make, I think, a better decision, and that is to repurpose it. It is definitely a part of the cityscape, and if we repurposed it and did it well, I think it'd be a welcoming sign coming into town. So yeah, I agree. I think I just don't see how it's financially feasible to demo it at this point, especially considering it's probably going to be north of 500 grand at this point. Well north of it.
Mr. Rob?
Well, I can well appreciate the fact that the cost of demolition is going up. However, we need to look at, if we repurpose that, the cost of maintenance is also going to go up, and that's going to be a constant maintenance issue. I don't care how well you cap it or whatever, sooner or later you're going to have to do some more brickwork, and that's just going to be a continuing process. In my opinion, I think we ought to look at demolishing it at this point, just because of that issue, just because we're going to be faced with that sooner or later, and the price is going to do nothing more than go up, and if we try to do something else with it, we're just handing that problem off to somebody else.
Those are all things we'll have to take into consideration. Mr. McGough?
I'm leaning to my agreement with Mr. Rob on this. It is unfortunate it's been there forever. I think 1935 is when it was built.
Further discussion to come? Any other unfinished business before council? Hearing none, let's move forward to legislation. Mr. Crum?
Ordinance number 2, 2025, enacting section 1296.19 solar energy systems of the codified ordinances of the city of Shelby.
Move for third reading.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Martin for the third reading of ordinance number 2, 2025. Discussion. Mr. Collins.
I was made aware by Mr. Insman of a little grammar error on here, so I would like to take care of that before we pass this ordinance. So by unanimous consent, I would like under 4D, on the last sentence, it says section B, but the B is in capital instead of lowercase with parentheses.
Say that again, please. Section,
4D, the last line,
so for
the last sentence.
A4,
A, B, C, D.
prohibited uses?
Yep, prohibited uses, the last sentence, where it says section B,
That's going to be a lowercase b.
the lowercase in parentheses.
Okay. In parentheses.
Paren, lower b, paren.
Correct. By unanimous consent, is there any objections to making that change? Hearing none, that will be so changed. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Cutler?
Yeah.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McGuire?
Yay.
Ordinance number 2, 2025 passes its third reading.
Move the ordinance be taken up fast.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Martin for the passage of ordinance number 2, 2025. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Cutler?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McGuire?
Yay.
Ordinance number 2, 2025 passes.
Ordinance number 3, 2025, enacting section 1296.20, traffic impact studies and access management policy of the codified ordinances of the city of Shelby.
Move the third reading.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Martin for the third reading of ordinance number 3, 2025. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Cutlet?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Ordinance number 3, 2025 passes its third reading.
Move the resolution be taken up and passed.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Cutlet for the passage of ordinance number 3, 2025. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Cutlet?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Ordinance number 3, 2025 passes.
Ordinance number 6, 2025, amending section 1490.08 of chapter 1490, exterior property maintenance of the codified ordinances of the city of Shelby.
Move the third reading.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Cutlet for the third reading of ordinance number 6, 2025. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Cutlet?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Ordinance number 6, 2025 passed its third reading.
Move the ordinance be taken up and passed.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Cutler for the passage of ordinance number 6, 2025. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Cutlet?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Ordinance number 6, 2025 passes.
Ordinance number 8, 2025, creating appropriations for the year 2025 and declaring an emergency.
Move that the rule requiring an ordinance be read on 3 separate occasions be suspended.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Martin and a second by Mr. Roberts that the rule requiring the ordinance be read on 3 separate occasions be suspended. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Cutler?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
That motion passes.
Move the ordinance be taken up and passed.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Martin and a second by Mr. Roberts for the passage of ordinance number 8, 2025. Discussion. For the record, we have Chief Thompson coming to the podium.
Asking you guys to reconsider the cuts of the Navy Fire Department and their wage line item. I won't read through this, sorry, reading word for word. How are we going to make payroll with a $200,000 reduction? The new union contract has a significant wage increase. We are dropping your funding to numbers last seen in 2022. Over half of our staff is at maximum vacation. Many of our staff carried their vacation time into this year. When this all started, I was told to reduce overtime. No criteria was given to me how much. We reduced overtime in 2024 by $29,000 using the mayor's numbers. This is despite a long-term injury and adding a floater position. Captain Salter and myself have had two-hour meetings with the mayor in ways that we can reduce overtime. Every option has been discussed. I have sent several emails to the administration and council about my concerns. I've also offered to discuss and answer any questions. The finance department has responded to these emails with their concerns. Before the appropriations meeting, I received an email at 2:59 on Friday with meeting on Saturday morning. My hours, I've worked since 10 years there as chief, have been 7 to 3. I never saw the email. I had no idea that we were being cut by $200,000. I knew there was going to be reductions. I knew we had to do things. We were in the process of doing that. The first time I saw the proposed budget was at the appropriations meeting. I've had no time to prepare a defense for the fire department. We have implemented ways to reduce overtime. I cover 8-hour shifts during the week and comp time can no longer be earned for shift work only when we have classes, call-ins, or special details. This will greatly reduce the availability to earn comp time. Since 1972, there have been 5 people on duty for fire and EMS coverage in the city of Shelby for a reason in our fire district. In the past, a minimum of 3 personnel from Shelby Fire and 2 personnel were funded by a private ambulance company. Until over 2 years ago, the EMS coverage was done by the private ambulance service. We were forced to absorb the 2 EMS positions. Since 1972, we've only added 1 extra position, which is the floater. So since 72, we've had 5 people on duty to help alleviate the amount of overtime worked by our members. However, the impact of the city is 7 people since we absorbed those other people. So we did take on seven positions that we didn't have to pay for, but we're pretty much at the same numbers we've always had for the city. The other option was to give the private ambulance a subsidy, which is close to what the overtime budget was going to be. The subsidy would have no return on our investment. The taxpayers would be hard billed for the service, and we would have a great reduction in the amount of our EMS revenue. Close to 25% of the time, actually it's 23 to be exact, of the time all 5 of our personnel are responding to calls at once. This could be for double runs, heart attacks, fires, MVAs, etc. The city has a $2 million carryover. How can we not fund a $200,000 reduction? We discussed at appropriations about adding on to the station, buying a fire truck, infrastructure studies, purchasing a second police cruiser, and adding personnel to the police department. Keeping our manpower is far more important than anything mentioned. We can reduce the amount we've discussed of setting aside to set back for manpower. Page 10, line 240 of the proposed budget has the 2025 estimate for the levy. It seems the amount is enough to fund the $200,000 reduction. As of today, EMS billing has made $438,500.05. So I think when we originally projected 2 years ago, we were at $350,000. So that's really coming well. Shelby Fire has secured over $1 million in grants over the years. We raised $240,000 in private donations for the interior furnishings of our fire department. We replaced the 1962 grass truck that was a huge safety issue in 2017. We were told that we couldn't replace the vehicle unless we had assistance with the funding. The new grass truck was funded by splitting the cost 3 ways with the townships. We purchased a used ambulance to be our third out. To save money, we did most of the prep work in-house to get ready for services. Shelby Fire has not done our part to help out. With the reduction, if it's passed, and we have to go to 4 shifts, 4 people per shift, some things are going to happen. Services will be reduced. We can only cut back items in our control. Outside classes, officers meeting, special details, CPR classes, fireworks inspections, flowing and painting of fire hydrants, and business inspections will have to be reduced unless they are being paid for by the requesting agency. The school system currently pays for coverage at varsity and playoff football games and soccer playoffs. So those are all covered. Our personnel must be ready to respond. In-house maintenance will be reduced. We must have 4 responders available to cover double calls for our service. Our 703 budget will suffer. We will need to sub out some maintenance. If anyone, something we can do. If someone leaves the employment, we will not replace them. The floater will be absorbed. We may have staff leave for other opportunities. The need for paramedics is high, and there are plenty of open positions available. One of my true concerns is if we have just a simple car wreck. There's a high probability that our fire truck's going to be left on scene unmanned if we only have 4 people. It takes 5 to respond right now to a car wreck. 1 in the engine, 2 in each squad. If we have 2 transports going at the same time, there will be no one left to answer calls. We do not have the luxury of the Mansfield area, having close mutual aid. Our closest mutual aid is 15 to 20 minutes away. We pledge to passing a levy to keep manpower at current levels. It will be a struggle to pass future levies. The backlash on social media will be great. I'm requesting that we are at least funded to last year's amounts. Thank you. Unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Jason. Any further discussion on ordinance number 8, 2025? Roll call.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Cutler?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Ordinance number 8, 2025 passes.
Resolution number 8, 2025, authorizing the mayor as Director of Public Service to accept property from the Community Improvement Corporation of Shelby, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
The resolution taken pass. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Martin and a second by Mr. Cutler for the passage of resolution number 8, 2025. Discussion? Mr. Geis.
This is that piece we were talking about, getting back in with that property and then getting ready for sale.
Let me check this one step closer. Everyone understand the purpose of the legislation? Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Cutler?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Resolution number 8, 2025 passes. Now come to miscellaneous business. Mark.
Mayor, I move council go into executive session for the following purpose: to consider the purchase of property for public purposes, the sale of property, competitive bidding, or the sale of other disposition of unneeded, obsolete, or unfit for use property in accordance with section 505.10 of the revised code. If premature disclosure of the information would give an unfair, competitive, or bargaining advantage to a person whose personal and private interest is adverse to the general public interest.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Martin, a second by Mr. Roberts, to go into executive session for the purpose so read. Discussion? Mr. Martin.
And if we pass it, then we would ask that you, the law director, and Mr. Geis accompany us.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob? Yay. Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Cutler?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Motion passes. We're in executive session at 7:52.